everyone, so I'm here to update you for my Finish 5 by November 5th reading challenge. I'm just going to jump straight into it. So in my last update, I had already started reading the Drought by Carsten Jensen, and in this update I have finished this book. I actually finished it a few weeks ago, I can't quite remember when, but I'll link my Goodreads down below and you can see the exact dates that I started and finished this book. I mentioned in my last update that there was something in the beginning of this book that was actually really confronting and really upsetting. There was this series of incidents between these young boys and their really abusive school teacher, and the revenge that they sought on him was really quite disturbing. And I'd like to say that that was like a single kind of occurring event, but throughout this novel there were quite a few really disturbing instances that kind of came out of nowhere because the rest of the novel wasn't particularly violent, and then every once in a while there was a really graphic scene. So this is a story essentially about a town in Denmark. It starts by talking about a particular man who lives in this Denmark town, and then it goes on to talk about his son, and then it talks about that son's life, and then it talks about his surrogate son's life, and then it talks about that surrogate son's mother's life, and it kind of just jumps between lives for about 700 pages. So it's a pretty long form kind of flowing epic style narrative, and there are many instances in which the character you've been following for a few hundred pages dies and you don't really get mention of them ever again. So it's kind of a long form story as opposed to following a specific person or a specific time. I mentioned also in my last update that what I find really odd about this book and about all Scandinavian novels that I've come across, the tone of them is really ironic and really quite jovial, but the tone doesn't really change even if it's talking about something really happy or if it's talking about something really sad or something really angry. The tone kind of maintains its sense of irony. I find that really odd, and I don't know if that's something that is just like a Scandinavian trope, or if I've not read enough Scandinavian novels to have any idea, or if it's just like an accident that I've come across these stories, but that's what I find, and I just can't really get into it because I feel like the narrator is asking me to find these characters funny, and I find that really bizarre because I'm supposed to find a sense of empathy with them while also finding them a bit ridiculous. There are many things I didn't like about this novel. Most particularly is the treatment of women and people of different races in this novel. I found it really difficult to understand whether the narrator was using particular turns of phrase or particular descriptors because it was a Victorian time period or because that's what he genuinely thinks about these people. And I found that distinction too blurry and I didn't enjoy that. Let's talk about, for example, one of the main characters has a mistress who is a Chinese woman, and she's often referred to as like this exotic oriental tigress figure, and I just found that really weird and offensive to read. There's also a huge section of this novel in which a much older man falls in love with a much younger woman, and it becomes a physically abusive relationship, and it's this idea that he is a man and therefore can't stop himself because she's so beautiful, and I was like, that's not a story you have to write in the 21st century. You can write that better, and I don't find the time period in which it's set an excuse for that kind of storytelling. So yeah, the longer and longer I read it, the more and more bored I got and the more and more offended I got by a lot of it. It just wasn't a very good story in my opinion. I found a lot of it was overwritten, and I just wasn't really connected to anything that happened in it. So I'm pretty sure I actually rated this 1 or 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I'll again link my Goodreads down below if you want to check it out, but this was pretty disappointing, and for like 700 pages it was a bit of a waste of my time. In happier news, since finishing the Drought, I have started A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and I am about this far into it. I'm planning on, after taking some blog photos today, having a bit of a reading day, and I want to see if I can get through maybe like 200 pages of this today, and that's my goal for the day. I don't know if any of you know about this story. It's been talked about a lot recently because it was published recently, but it follows the lives of 4 men who are best friends living together in New York. 2 of them are roommates, and then 2 of them live with their parents. So far, I'm really enjoying this novel. It is written really well. The story flows very smoothly. It's very easy to read. I would compare it to the writing of Donna Tartt. I find her writing very similarly, very story-like, and just flows really easily. There's really no struggle to follow what's happening. There's one character in it named Jude who is alluded to having a really, really horrible childhood and upbringing, and is supposed to be a victim of quite severe abuse. So far, I have not encountered a lot of that abuse yet. It's been alluded to, and he's had flashbacks to it, but I haven't gotten into the graphic detail that people say is in this story. So I do know the sections that I have read of Jude are very tense. I'm often sitting there in bed like very, very high strung because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's happened to him, and it feels really emotive the way it's written. I have a friend who actually really disliked that about this novel. She felt that she was being manipulated a lot and emotionally controlled by Hanya Yanagihara. I do notice that, but I can't say that I dislike it. I think it's good storytelling in this novel, but I mean, I'll see how I go with the rest of the novel and let you know how I think at the end. But yeah, that's how far I've gotten in A Little Life. So if you guys have been keeping track, that means I have a little more than a month to finish A Little Life and my other two books. So the other one is Salinger, which is a biography of J.D. Salinger by David Shields and Shane Salerno, and I also have Carpentaria by Alexis Wright. So far, I've already finished the Journals of Sylvia Plath, which I'll link down below because I can't remember who's written it. So I still have something like 1,600 pages, I think, to go. So I'm approximately halfway through the challenge, even though I have a little more than a month to go. I am still confident that I can finish A Little Life, and I am hoping that I can finish Salinger as well. I think if I commit myself to this, I think I'll be able to do it. The problem is this week I stumbled upon a new YouTube channel called Bry and Candice. It is the vlog channel of Bry, also known as Bry. He's an Irish musician, and his wife Candice have a vlog channel together. And they're the sweetest couple I've ever seen in my entire life. So I have been watching every single one of their videos this week, and it's taken away from my reading time, so that's my excuse today. Otherwise, that is my update for my Finish 5 by November 5th. Please let me know if you're doing this challenge and whether you're updating on YouTube or Instagram or somewhere on Goodreads. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.